人類の未来は科学の発展と人類の精神的進化のバランスが取れて初めて安定したものになるであろうと確信をいたしております。この京都賞はこの両面の今後の発展に大きく寄与し、新しい哲学的パラダイムの構築を促進するいささかの刺激剤となればこの上なく幸せに思っております。
The Kyoto Prize is Japan's highest private award for lifetime achievement in the fields of advanced technology, basic sciences, and the arts and philosophy. Given by the Inamori Foundation, the Kyoto Prize is presented to individuals and groups worldwide who have contributed significantly to the betterment of mankind. The Inamori Foundation and UC San Diego share similar missions. We are both committed to scientific progress. We are both committed to cultural advancement. And we are both committed to solving complex issues through multidisciplinary research. World-renowned faculty from our two institutions have worked together across multiple disciplines to forward scientific discovery. Together, we are driving innovations in science, innovations in medicine, and innovations in technology.
Welcome. I am Cristina Della Coletta, Dean of the Division of Arts and Humanities at UC San Diego. I'd like to introduce Professor Allan Havis, who has more than 32 years of committed service to UC San Diego. He served as provost of Thurgood Marshall College and is a former chair of our esteemed Department of Theater and Dance. A celebrated playwright, librettist, and author, what sets Professor Havis apart is his commitment to advocating for the arts and his community outreach. As provost, he launched an artist in residence program that brought more than a dozen artists to campus, many returning as theater and dance alumni. As chair, he successfully doubled the department's offering of dedicated film classes and helped increase undergraduate majors in the department by 25%. Not surprising then that the program was ranked in the top 5 for an undergraduate acting degree and is the top-rated MFA program on the entire West Coast. Today, we have a very unique opportunity as Professor Havis hosts Ariane Mnouchkine, founder and director of the Théâtre du Soleil in Paris, and the current Kyoto Prize laureate in arts and philosophy. Ms. Mnouchkine is an international figurehead in the arts and embodies the ideal of public theater. As a leading public institution in arts and humanities, we're honored to help celebrate Ariane Mnouchkine as part of the annual Kyoto Prize Symposium given by the Inamori Foundation. It is a real pleasure to bring this rare opportunity to you. Please enjoy and thank you.
I want to extend a very warm thank you to Dean Cristina Della Coletta for giving such great sponsorship to this event today. And I'm also delighted that an old Yale classmate, scholar Robert Marx, will help participate in our intimate conversation with the Kyoto laureate, Ariane Mnouchkine. And with that, I would like to now forward this to Robert Marx. Please take it away, Robert.
I'm Robert Marx of the Samuels Foundation in New York City, and I'm an invited scholar here at the Kyoto Prize events in California. And for today's panel meeting with Ariane Mnouchkine and Allan Havis, we only have 30 minutes. So I don't want to take much time away from the pleasure of our sharing a moment, or even a moment over Zoom with Ariane Mnouchkine, but a brief introduction is in order. Ariane founded the Théâtre du Soleil as an experimental ensemble in 1964. It was then a young Parisian troupe deeply embedded in both contemporary politics and the traditions of physical acting. Since then, the company has thrived for over 50 years, which is a theater miracle all by itself. The Soleil is a true international company, working at the highest creative levels. Its artists come from dozens of nations, cultures from across the globe have fed its work, and through many world tours, the Soleil has nourished other cultures in return, other theaters and theater people. And that includes the United States and California in particular, where the Soleil had a stunning US debut with a 3-play Shakespeare repertory at the Los Angeles Olympic Arts Festival in 1984. The Soleil has embraced classic drama, contemporary plays, and many powerful scripts devised collectively by the ensemble. Its work has been a continuous collaboration among equals. Its leadership, its actors, its musicians, its designers and craftspeople, its staff, and its audience. On both sides of the stage, everyone is there together, sharing theater of invention and humanity, all guided by Ariane. In her Kyoto Prize acceptance speech, Ariane asked, "From what milk and what bread have I been nourished?" For those of us blessed to be within her circle, we could well say that she has nourished us, both theatrically and quite literally through the communal meals that are part of any Soleil performance. The Soleil's vast open space theater called the Cartoucherie is a Napoleonic era munitions factory on the outskirts of Paris that for so many people has become a theatrical cathedral. Going there, our spirits fly. We leave better than when we arrived. So if the Kyoto Prize has honored Ariane and all the artists of the Théâtre du Soleil, let's also acknowledge that the Soleil honors us by weaving every member of the audience into a fabric of a higher calling. No theater could serve a greater moral purpose. As a friend once said, the Soleil is what theater should always be. So thank you, Ariane, as always, and thank you for joining us today from Paris. So to begin, let me ask about the company itself. Unlike theaters in the United States, the Soleil has really been built upon these intense long-term collaborations that involve all artists and staff, and a core group of Soleil artists have been working together for decades. How has the ensemble evolved since the theater's founding in the 1960s?
Some of us are older, you know, the hair have whitened, but I think I hope we have evolved. I hope we have progress, because at the beginning of your presentation, you said we were embedded in very political engagement, and you know, we didn't know anything when we started. We were ignorant. We were we just knew one thing, that we wanted to be happy together, that we thought we would live together for always for all our life. And that, of course, we will finish by doing the best theater in the world. That was, you know, we had no doubts about that, that we would finally, we would know finally what theater is, which of course is not the case. We're still searching for theater. So probably that's what is always the same, the same thing. I think we've progressed, but we are still searching what is theater. And probably that's what makes it, in a way, I'm sure that is what keeps us together for 57 years, Robert, 57 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yes, it is amazing for me. It's amazing for my friends who've been with me for 30, some for 40 years, some of course for 10 years. But even the youngest, they now know that they belong to a very long adventure. So of course I'm sure we've changed but we're still looking to the same place,
Yeah.
which is still happiness and happiness of our lives, of our personal lives, of our professional lives, and happiness during this incredible moment, which is a performance.
Mhm.
Which is because when you say it's theater has, I mean, it's we're citizens like others, except that during that moment, because it's such a privilege to share that very erotic moment with 500 people, every day, 5 days a week, 70 people, actors and technicians, and know that they go to a date. We have a date. We are dating.
And you are there to greet everyone.
Yes, of course. Of course, because it's so important. It's such an occasion. And probably the difficult part is to keep it 5 days a week during 2 or 3 years, because to keep it un rendez-vous d'amour, non? Je crois qu'il n'y a pas beaucoup de gens qui ont cette chance d'avoir un rendez-vous d'amour 5 fois par semaine.
And we feel that affection as audience members when we are there. It's an experience unlike any other theater, because as I tried to say in my introduction, we are all there in one room together for a common search, as you said, for a common experience that cuts across everybody, whether you're on stage or in the audience.
It's but that's theater. I mean, that's what theater is or should be.
Yes.
And the very rare bad evenings, because it happens. There are some, soirées maudites, cursed evenings, where we feel that this love for human beings, this conviction that humanity is good, at least during that moment. And sometimes we feel that, well, it wasn't there that evening, and this is very painful. Those like une mauvaise représentation, comme on dit, where this blending this did not happen, and so it is dangerous, because it's every evening is risky. I mean, it's a risk, and I think the public knows that, or at least even if they forget it while they're traveling towards us in the metro or on their car, then they forget that they're going to risk something. When they
I think the journey to get to the Cartoucherie, which is on the outskirts of Paris, is also part of the experience, because you have traveled, you have gone outside of yourself to reach this space where you're greeted, where you are welcomed into a community. And it can't always be the special night. That's a human process. But I would assume that on the nights when it is mauvaise, when it does not work, that makes the better nights more special, because you've returned. You have returned.
Yes, it's true. And also we've been reminded that probably we did not do every, we were careless, or we let the outside world influence us,
Mhm.
and it's an adventure. I mean, and I don't think there. Well, I suppose a musician, I suppose an orchestra knows that too, in a
Yes.
way. They know
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Then
Yeah.
they have that experience.
Good evening, Ariane.
evening.
Congratulations on your Kyoto Laureate. It's a great honor
Thank
to
you.
have this conversation with you. And everybody in California is thrilled to be watching this and getting to know more about you personally. And I've also enjoyed seeing the Soleil in Paris, and I've also had food during the intermission. Many years ago, the Soleil became an international ensemble. What are the creative influences beyond European theater that inform the company's work? Did American experimental theater of the 1960s and 70s have any influence in your early years?
I suppose so. I suppose. I mean, I'm sure that something, even if it was not what I wanted to do, I think we could not be interested or even influenced even without knowing so, but by the living or by the bread and puppet, or because they were like flags of the era. I mean, they were so much symbolic of their times. They were, in fact, they were announcing another time, and doing so, they were symbolic of their time, of our times. So we were very well. In fact, it's very strange. It's a strange question for me, because in the play we are working now, we are rehearsing now, there is a small homage, I would say a small comical homage to the living. So, of course, I mean, if we still think of them, if we still remember them, if we,
William Beck.
in a way, still love them, they influenced us.
Yes, and the bread and puppet theater is still very active in America, still.
That I did not know, Robert.
Yes.
I was frightened that they wouldn't be. They wouldn't.
No, and Peter Schumann and his colleagues are they're in a small town in Vermont.
Yeah, there is a young, I mean, not so young anymore, but there's an actress who worked with us quite a long time, and she's not with us as an actress anymore, but she's with us because she's a incredibly good designer.
Yeah.
And she worked with Schumann quite a lot, and that's Catherine Schaub.
Oh yes.
Voila, and she's back with us, and she will do the poster and the program and all that. She does the designs. So she knows Peter very well, and she stayed with them quite a lot.
Yes.
So you see.
Excellent. The Soleil, certainly in all the years I have been following the company's work, has always been committed to exploring political issues and humanitarian issues. And it has sometimes, as in your work in Afghanistan, been at personal risk. And you have been a very courageous citizen of the theater. And sometimes in America, we discuss what it is for an artist to be a citizen. And I wanted to ask you about that concept. Where do the responsibilities of citizenry lie within the Soleil?
Everywhere, and it can be more or less. The questioning is more or less acute, aigu. depending on the days we are living. And for the moment, it's very acute. I mean, the questioning of responsibility of what am I, do my mouth, is my mouth in front of my actions?
Mm-hmm.
Probably for artists, that's the one of the main questions, because we talk a lot. I mean, artists speak and talk a lot. And sometimes we are human beings, so we might have the weakness of having a mouth here and a doing elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So probably we must be very vigilant, like everybody else, to remember that we are everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We are not in any way apart. Voilà.
I should mention, for the sake of those watching, that the company has done a great deal of training with young artists in countries like Afghanistan, where young women have been brought into the experience of this, and where the Soleil, and you in particular, have been at the forefront of equality and of bringing a broader concept of responsibility and citizenry in the theater to other cultures.
But Robert, when you talk like that, I have to emphasize that we are not saying every morning, we are not saying to ourselves every morning, we have to be like that, we have to be, it happens. Mm-hmm. We are not talking about equality all the time. We're just talking about it when something suddenly seems to be not like it should be.
Yeah.
Because for example, all right, as you know, the salaries are equal for everybody. Yeah. All right. But that's something which happened at the beginning because it was, for us, it was normal. It was normal. It was not ideological. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's something about the Soleil that the audience should understand, and maybe not agree with it, but it is we are not obeying to certain principles because of a certain ideology. But equality is basic. Mm-hmm. It's like freedom. Freedom is a base for humanity. So, and equality, how can I live with, how can I work? How can we work together if our salaries are not equal? If we don't have an equal voice to our decision? So things are discussed when the situation is suddenly well, this is not just, something happened, and I think it shouldn't be like that, because so then we discuss it. But we are not very, in fact, if I look at all of us, we are not very ideologically minded. It's there are certain principles, the one that you are talking about, equality of salary, of course equality between men and women, mm-hmm. and in numbers. There are about exactly, or there is exactly the same number of women and men in the company. I think now there's probably a few women more, but it's not by principle, it's happened because voilà, 2 technicians arrived and they were women and they, right. So, but I'm not saying we don't think about it. Of course we do. but we don't worry about it because it is. And that's life. That is what.
But just it being.
Am I sufficiently clear?
Itself. This is one reason why, from an American context, the Soleil has been inspiring to so many people, because those concepts are there, and they inform the work.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, that's true. I think that
it's wholly unlike anything we have in America.
Yes.
Maybe the question is, why is it unlike what is happening in America? But maybe, I'm not sure it's like it's not so frequent in France, but what I know is that there are many young people in France who would like to do it. You see, it's because they know, everybody wants to be happy at work. Everybody wants to share something. Je vais parler français là. Il y a un proverbe, je ne sais pas je me rappelle plus d'où ça vient, mais qui dit si tu veux unir tes peuples, il te faut faire des œuvres. Et je crois, si vous voulez, que au fond, quand je dis c'est pas idéologique chez nous, je crois qu'au fond c'est que il y a quelque chose qui est que on sent que on travaille mieux quand même avec de l'amour, tout simplement. On travaille mieux en cherchant le terrain d'affection. Et donc, il ne peut pas y avoir d'amour et d'affection s'il n'y a pas de l'égalité. Voilà. Donc, il doit y avoir, there is probably a secret vigilance in everybody's mind or soul, but it's a secret vigilance. It doesn't have to be discussed all over again and again and again, and with anger, and sometimes with aggressivity or even hatred.
Yeah,
that doesn't make it work.
True. Allan, you have a question about touring.
Yes, Ariane, international touring has always been a major part of the Soleil producing structure. Why is touring theater important to you, and how difficult is it to travel with such a large and complex production year by year? I have another question that follows that up in terms of the 1984 visit to Los Angeles.
Well, it's a dream. I mean, we work very hard. We of course, we love performing in Paris at the Cartoucherie, in our theater. That's our mission. That's what we have to do. But traveling and going with the play somewhere else, very far or not so far, and meeting other public, other artists too. Well, it's a gift. I mean, it's la cerise sur le gâteau. It's a joy. It's an honor, and it's a joy. And also, I remember how important it was for me when great theaters came to Paris, or when they are still doing so, even if it becomes more and more difficult and rare. So artists must not have, well, not, they're migrating, comment on dit, c'est comme des oiseaux migrateurs, il faut qu'ils voyagent, ils doivent voyager, ils doivent se confronter à d'autres cultures, ils doivent boire aux sources d'autres pays. Ils doivent se désaltérer, s'irriguer à d'autres cultures, hein, qui d'ailleurs ne sont pas si étrangères que cela, hein, qui sont simplement d'autres facettes de l'universalité. Donc, c'est essentiel, ça, c'est essentiel.
Yes.
Do you have set memories from 1984 or when Soleil was in New York at Lincoln Center,
Yes.
the Armory? What were the American audiences like? And can you also let our audience watching this know that you like spaces that are not theaters, but they are large industrial
Yes.
boxes?
Well, I have wonderful memories from that experience. It was well. First, it was our first big travel, and it was wonderful, and also the public was marvelous. I remember really that they were, well, it was they received us very well, and sometimes when we were getting out of performances, the public was already sleeping on camping outside to be sure to have a seat the day after. And that was it was overwhelming. It was very beautiful. I was astonished, and even I was worried because you don't applaud very much in America. And the French public is very, I must say, is very generous at the end. They applaud a lot when they like it. They can, applaud for 10 times. And of course, in the States, it's not like that. And I was surprised. And at the beginning, I had an interview on the radio sometime. And I said that, but I said it like that. I said, they said, what is different with the public in the States? And I said, oh, well, they're wonderful. They're so kind. It's just that at the end, they don't applaud, and we were surprised, but now we know that it's the habit. And then the day after, the performance after that interview, at the end, they yelled, they applauded ferociously, to let us know that they liked us. So no, we were, and we were very well received, and no, it was very, very nice, lovely, lovely. Robert Fitzpatrick received us very well. It was wonderful.
Robert Fitzpatrick was the director of the entire Olympic Festival, and
yes,
all of us who worked on it, we were amazed by the California audience too, because there had never, in the United States, there had never been a festival on the scale of the Olympic Festival. And we did not know what to expect in terms of an audience response. Who would buy tickets? Who would be there? And the audiences were thrilling. They were really astonishing audiences who came forward. And I mean, for the Soleil, as well as the Piccolo Teatro di Milano, any number of wonderful, Contour from Poland. And they were informed, they were generous, and listened. They were audiences that listened to the work on stage.
Yes, no, it was. They were really amazing. C'est un très, très grand souvenir, vraiment, un très grand souvenir. Et c'était quand même encore, c'était pas nos débuts quand même, parce qu'on existait quand même. Mais je me souviens de ça comme quand même un moment tout à fait mémorable, vraiment.
Ariane, in addition to the theater, you've had a great deal of experience as a filmmaker. Many productions of the Soleil have been documented on film. What are the challenges in capturing a Soleil production on film?
Alors, may I speak French for that?
Yes, please.
Vous savez, un spectacle est d'abord fait par les acteurs, un peu par le metteur en scène, mais il est complètement terminé en fait dans la tête des spectateurs. Au fond, c'est les spectateurs qui terminent la mise en scène et qui surtout font des editing. C'est eux qui montent, hein, c'est-à-dire que c'est eux qui décident qu'ils vont faire un gros plan ou voir cette scène en plan large. Bon, moi, metteur en scène, je dois les y inciter quand je fais une mise en scène, je dois espérer qu'à ce moment-là, c'est les yeux de cet acteur-là que le public regardera et que tout d'un coup, il verra la forêt tout entière. Mais bon, c'est quand même le public qui fait ça. Et c'est ce que je crois, c'est que la caméra, quand nous décidons de faire de notre spectacle un film, pour respecter le plus ce que le spectacle a vraiment provoqué dans l'âme du spectateur, il faut que la caméra prenne la place du spectateur. C'est-à-dire qu'il faut qu'effectivement, j'imagine, ce que le spectateur a fait pendant une représentation, eh bien, cette fois-ci, c'est la caméra qui doit le faire. Et c'est le montage qui doit le faire. Et à ce moment-là, oui, on peut dire que ce n'est pas juste du théâtre filmé, mais que on peut essayer quand même de capturer le mieux possible le lien, ce qui s'est passé entre le spectateur et l'acteur ou les acteurs, les actrices, certains moments du spectacle. Et au fond, je crois, je ne suis pas certaine, mais je crois que quand je fais un film d'un de nos spectacles, au fond, c'est ce que je fais, c'est-à-dire, j'essaye de faire exactement ce que mon corps a fait, mon corps, mes yeux, mes oreilles, my skin, ma peau, fait pendant que je regarde les acteurs. Parce qu'on ne regarde pas un spectacle tout en plan large. Hein? Robert, you're not looking at a theater space always the same. You're going to zoom to see, and that is probably because that's what a good director wants you to do. But you still have your own free will to do it or not do it. So the camera, when you're filming, the camera has to deal with this very, very dynamic and mysterious link and between a spectator and actors. It's because it breathes, it moves. You're not, the public is not freeze. I mean, it's frozen. It moves in a way. It moves a lot inside.
Yes. I once asked the same question of Georges Balanchine, the great choreographer.
Yeah.
And he said to me that when he choreographs in an opera house and he threw out his arms, he said, I need to be concerned with that space, with his arms reached as far as he could. He said, but when I'm behind a camera, it comes in, I only need that space.
Right.
A year ago on our campus at UC San Diego, we had a film festival highlighting scenes from your wonderful movie Molière, and also 1789, which captures what you do on stage as a film document. And our students were wild about your work. But the question I'd like to follow up with now is, as you know American audiences and as you know American culture, what is your hope for American theater, particularly as we leave COVID and come back to physical assembly? What would you like to see, if you could wish for an American theater of the future?
I don't. Well, then I must admit that I don't know very well the American theater. I'm very much interested for the moment by Richard Nelson, as Robert knows, because because in a way it's nearly the contrary of what we do, and it's so good. It's so incredibly, I mean, it's amazing, and I'm very, 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 very admirative de ce théâtre. Mais je ne connais pas bien le théâtre américain. Donc, I must say, these are not the questions I've been asking myself recently about America.
Oh, well, understandably.
Voilà. We've been, I mean, many people around the world have been asking themselves so many critical questions. I mean, so many important and questions about America. And luckily, you already answered to one of the main ones by voting as you did recently, and I would say stopping a sort of catastrophe for the world, not only for America, but for the world. So that already answered to a part of our questioning. But I admit I didn't think, it's probably wrong, but I did not think about theater looking at America recently. I thought about tragedy, but not theatrical tragedy. But, I
mean, one of our questions as theater people within the United States.
Robert, I just want to finish. I must say that a few days before your elections, I was petrified. I was, you know, we were talking around, all of us, and we felt the same thing. It was the first time that we felt we were so afraid. We were so afraid for an election which was not it was not French election, but it was as if it were French election.
Yes.
And the fear was enormous, I must say. The hope too. I could not imagine that you could, I mean, the Biden would not be elected. I could not imagine, but still, we were very frightened.
Yeah.
Very frightened.
I think very few Americans really understand the degree to which people abroad follow what happens in our country. And as theater people, one of our issues is, how does the American theater interact with our political context, with our colleagues abroad, with the degree to which we are not isolated? Our country affects the world. And these are a lot of unanswered questions for us as a nation and for us as a theater community.
Well, what can be, I mean, of course, everybody hopes that as anywhere else, it's the same in France, it's the same in Europe, that the American theater will que le théâtre, moi ce que j'espère, comme ailleurs, mais c'est que le théâtre américain, les artistes de théâtre américain vont savoir poser les bonnes questions. Les bonnes questions, c'est-à-dire les questions fertiles. Voilà, we must ask good questions.
Yes.
And good questions sometimes are difficult to formulate.
Yes, and it's only over time that we know if we're asking the right questions of ourselves.
Yes. Because sometimes we think we ask a question, but in fact we make a judgment, which is so it closes the conversation instead of opening it, really, of giving us the tools to really talk to each other and to listen to each other, and not start another duel and another fight, another, I would say, maiming, invalidating fight.
Yes.
Yes. something which is not, which we will, from which we will get out weaker, meaner, sadder, instead of coming out stronger and with more hope, more intelligent, not more violent. Difficult.
More hope and more intelligent. This is the
Yes.
gift of the Soleil, the entire ensemble, to all of us. And Ariane, we've already kept you beyond the 30 minutes that you generously gave us. So let me thank you. Allan, unless there is something you'd like to bring into the conversation.
Was there a question that you wanted us to ask that we forgot to ask you?
No. As I said, I wanted. Well, in fact, I should have congratulated you at the beginning for the election. I mean, because you can't imagine the relief and and even people who are very critical about America, about the States. I could feel that their relief and their affection for that country and their hope. There's a lot of hope.
Yes.
Because if only something appeasing could come to the States, it's very important for all of us.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous.
Yes. Ariane, merci. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Merci. Merci, Robert. À bientôt. À bientôt.
À bientôt.
À vous
À bientôt.
Bonsoir.
今後人類の未来は科学の発展と人類の精神的進化のバランスが取れて初めて安定したものになるであろうと確信をいたしております。この京都賞がこの両面の今後の発展に大きく寄与し、新しい哲学的パラダイムの構築を促進するいささかの刺激剤となればこの上なく幸せに思っております。